Hey, and welcome to Board with Life News for July 20th. Today I'm going to talk about the Spiel des Jahres winner, the Kinderspiel winner, new Manera starter set, Power Grid the card game, and the Kickstarter for Near and Far. Let's get to it. Hey, I'm Chris. Welcome to Board with Life News. I apologize that I missed the news the past 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, I had my audio recorder messed up. Hopefully that's not happening right now. And then last week I was out of town. But I should have news coming forward in the coming weeks. I also hope to, early next week, have my list of my top 10 most anticipated games coming out at Gen Con. So if you're going to Gen Con and you're looking for what's going to be hot this year, that's a good gauge for that. So definitely check that out if you're interested. Subscribe so you don't miss that. Codenames won the Spiel des Jahres award. The Spiel des Jahres is the most prestigious award in board games. It's the German Board Game of the Year award. Codenames was an early favorite for this, and I'm not surprised at all it won. I think it's incredibly deserving. Codenames is one of those very rare games that is totally approachable from everyone, whether or not they've never played a board game or they are a hardcore board game fan. It is great for families. It's great for large groups. Like, it's just such a good game. So congratulations to Codenames for the Spiel des Jahres win. The Kinderspiel category was a little bit more interesting than the Spiel category this year because Isle of Skye, which was a pretty traditional game, it used kind of traditional Euro mechanics, was up against both Time Stories and Pandemic Legacy. Both of those were pretty innovative and revolutionary games in terms of adding narrative into board games. So it was whether or not they were going to award kind of originality and innovation over kind of a good classic game. And they came down on the side of Isle of Skye and kind of awarded the good classic game. Now, I absolutely love Isle of Skye. If you watch my top 10 games of 2015 list, it was my second favorite game then. It has since overtaken Orleans to become my favorite game. I like it more than Pandemic Legacy, even though I like Pandemic Legacy quite a bit. I'm not so hot on Time Stories, but if it was up to me, I still would have picked Pandemic Legacy, even though I don't like it as much as Isle of Skye, simply because I think that it's a more important game in the hobby. But I totally understand why you would pick Isle of Skye when this is supposed to be an award, even though it's the connoisseur board game, the slightly heavier, even though Isle of Skye is not a heavy game, board game award. It is much more approachable to a person that maybe isn't aware of a lot of board games and goes like, oh, it won the Kinner, let's try it. And Pandemic Legacy could be incredibly intimidating. It's a little bit intimidating for me, and I've played a bunch of Pandemic, and I've played Risk Legacy, and I understand all that, but it's still a lot of kind of like moving parts, which are necessary for the Legacy part of the game, but, you know, I could see people being turned off by that. So, while they didn't award kind of innovation in the board game hobby this year by giving it to Isle of Skye, they certainly gave it to a totally deserving, really good, smart, well-made game. So congratulations to Isle of Skye. New Manera, the popular RPG by Monty Cook, who also was one of the guys that headed up Dungeons & Dragons 3rd Edition. He's very famous in the role-playing game designer world. They announced that they're going to be doing a new Manera starter set, which will be a kind of cheaper price point and more accessible intro into the new Manera system instead of having to go through, you know, big books and all that stuff with lots of rules. So the starter box will include rules, pre-generated characters, dice, a map, and cards. So it sounds like it's going to be similar to the 5th edition starter set, which was a great product. So this is a way to jump into the new Manera world, which is a really cool, interesting world, without having to like slog through nearly as much content as you would normally. So that's exciting. We got word that Power Grid the card game will be coming out. This is kind of following in the heels of Castles of Burgundy the card game and other card games from really popular kind of mid-weight Euro games. So they're going to be getting rid of the map portion of Power Grid, so you won't have all the different stations on the map. But instead, they're just going to focus on the bidding for power plants with the auction system and then supplying them with resources. So 2 of the 3 things that you would be used to in Power Grid. It's also going to take about 60 minutes, so it'll play a little bit faster. So Castle Burgundy, the card game's been getting pretty good reviews, so hopefully this one lives up to that as well. The Kickstarter this week is for Near and Far by Ryan Locat. This is a storytelling game that's the sequel to last year's hit Above and Below, also by Ryan Locat. It's got gorgeous artwork, as always. In addition to the kind of storybook that you'd be used to if you've played Above and Below, it's going to introduce an atlas of 11 different maps, which is really cool, so you can kind of have all these different maps that you play through. It's also going to have 5 game modes. The first is Adventure Mode, where it's going to be one game, and it's kind of a teaching game, a learn-to-play game. Then a Campaign Mode, which is 10 games that you play on 10 different maps, and you level up your character along the way. Story Mode, which is 3 to 4 games, and you follow your character's story and kind of decide how they'll wind up at the end of the story, so that's pretty interesting. There's going to be Short Mode, which is 1 game on any map, and then Arcade Mode, which uses a deck of cards with encounters and things like that, so it's kind of like a more random setup thing. So it sounds like it's just chocked absolutely full of stuff. Ryan Locat produces amazing games, so I'm really excited about this one. It is $50 right now on Kickstarter, so if that sounds interesting to you, go back that. All right, that's the news for this week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and follow me on social media. I'm at Chris Bryan Games on Twitter and Instagram. I would very much appreciate that. So this week's question comes from @Skye via Twitter, and they ask, what are some of your favorite discontinued games? This was actually harder for me to come up with an answer for than I thought it would be, because a lot of the games that I would have said have since come back into print. There's the like Tom Vassell rule or whatever, the like any great game will come back into print. So it would have been like Fury of Dracula or something, but that just came back into print. So I was trying to think of ones that are completely out of print, and then one stuck out to me, and that's Hero Quest, that has been out of print for a long, long time, and there have been attempts to bring it back into print, but it probably won't. And honestly, I think Hero Quest, by today's standards, well, you wouldn't pick to play that over like Descent or another good dungeon crawler that took all the good things from it and then also like cleaned up the system and simplified it. But I have, you probably can't see it, it's out of frame, but my very old copy of Hero Quest that I got for slightly above market prices because I didn't have it when I was a kid. But it has a ton of nostalgia in it. Just the artwork, it's like from a bygone era, which is kind of, you know, nice. And it's really was an incredibly popular game then. It's still a very sought after game now. So that's one that is discontinued, and I would take the word discontinued to mean like done forever, as opposed to out of print, which kind of implies that it will come back into print. And while there have been attempts made, they haven't worked yet. So Hero Quest, yeah, that very sought after classic game. Or Dune, actually, now that I think about it, Dune. Oh well. You can, well, tune in next week for one. I'm not going to talk about Dune, but Dune's another one that I literally just thought of. Okay, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next week.